I just played a crazy game against Chess with Akeem, and in this video, I'm going to break down everything that happened. For context, we're both candidate masters, so it's going to be a very interesting game. And you're also going to learn the simple three-step thinking system I used that got me to 2000 ELO and beyond. I call it the BAD strategy, and you'll see what that means and how to execute it as we go. Okay, so I was playing white, and I started off with E4. He goes E5, knight out, and then he plays knight F6, which is called the Petrov defense. Now, already I'm not familiar with the opening theory here, but it doesn't matter. In unfamiliar positions, you just have to follow basic opening principles and respond to your opponent's threats. And that's also the first step of the BAD framework. B for blunder check. After every move your opponent makes, you need to ask yourself, what is their threat? Right now, he's attacking my pawn, so I play knight here, developing and defending at the same time. You always want to look for multi-purpose moves like this, where you're killing two birds with one move. Akeem brings his bishop out, pressuring the knight. Now, he still hasn't protected his center pawn, so I decided to just take it. And here he castles, so he's just going for super fast development. I'm up a pawn for now, but he can win this pawn back whenever he wants. Now, back to blunder prevention this move. What is his threat here? Well, he wants to bring his rook out and attack down this open file, so I use my bishop to prevent this. He can't move, because I would take on F7, and it would be a fork. Again, this is a multi-purpose move, developing a piece while preventing his plan at the same time. So instead, he brings his queen out to attack, and I have no choice but to retreat. He takes my pawn, threatening some nasty discovered checks down this file, which is super dangerous for my king. So I'm just in time to castle before anything tragic happens. Akeem makes an interesting decision to trade bishop for knight here, which I'm pretty happy about because, for one, it gives me the bishop pair, and it also helps me open up my bishop. And by the way, these double pawns aren't a bad thing, because the pawns here are all connected and can kind of protect each other. Double pawns are only bad if they can be attacked easily, which you'll see later in the game. Anyway, he plays C6, and his threat here is to push D5, but there's nothing I can really do about that. So this is where I use step 2 of the BAD system, A for attack. The question you ask yourself is, what can I attack here? Now, I don't have any major threats I can make, but I do have this annoying little rook move, pinning his knight and kind of paralyzing his pieces here. D5 comes as expected. I drop back. He goes bishop here, pinning my knight, and now he's got 2 pieces in my territory here, which I don't like. So I kick his bishop back with H3. Whenever your opponent puts a piece on your side of the board, it's always good to neutralize it by either trading it off or chasing it away. So I've pushed his bishop back a bit, but his knight is still here, and it's well protected by this pawn. Which is why I play C4, trying to undermine that knight's protection. He develops, and now I trade pawns. This might seem like an insignificant trade, but it's important to understand what just happened. Think about who benefited from this trade, me or him. Well, before he had a really nice chain of 4 connected pawns, and I had these double pawns, which were okay, but not ideal. So this trade allowed me to get rid of my double pawns and also damage his pawn structure at the same time, because now he has this weak, isolated pawn on D5. So it's only a small advantage for me, but it all adds up. Okay, now back to our thinking system. Blunder check. Well, he doesn't have any threats after that last move. Anything we can attack here? No, not really, which leads us to the final step of the BAD strategy, D for develop. This can mean developing a new piece from its starting square, like this. But it can also be about optimizing all your other pieces and finding better squares for them. So that's the BAD thinking system that you can use on every single move. First, you respond to any threat from your opponent, and then you're either attacking when you get the chance or developing pieces. It's pretty easy to understand. You've almost definitely heard of these 3 things before. But what really separates masters from everyone else is their execution. That's the hard part. So this next phase of the game will show you how to execute these 3 steps effectively in any position. He plays Queen F6, which is a tricky move to deal with because he's forking my bishop and pawn. I thought of a few moves here. Queen C1 defends both threats, but the problem is he takes here and opens up my king. Taking the knight is also interesting. We have to calculate all these trades, but I ruled it out because I thought my king is still going to get exposed. So in the game, I decided to retreat the bishop. Yes, he could have taken this free pawn, but I thought I had good counterplay on the B file after that. He probably thought the same thing and decided not to take, and instead went knight to C5. I don't want to lose the bishop pair, so I go back. This looks like a passive move, but it actually does a lot. It breaks that annoying pin he had, it defends the knight, and it opens up my queen to attack this pawn. He brings his rook out to defend, and now I played queen here, offering a queen trade. And then I get my last piece into the game to complete development, and he does the same. Now this is the point where almost every player gets stuck. You've got all your pieces developed, but what do you do now? Well, the good news is the attack or develop strategy still applies. You still have to attack your opponent's weaknesses and optimize your pieces to the best possible squares, which is why I played knight e5. He trades bishops, and I like my position here. My pieces are looking a lot more active than they were just a few moves ago. Akeem moves his knight back, which I'm not sure what his idea was. Now I wanted to play knight here and trade knights, because in isolated pawn positions, it's good to trade off minor pieces and remove his defenders of the pawn. But I can't do that because I would lose my rook, so I move the rook back first. This is another point that's worth noting. Chess is all about problem solving. When you have something you want to do, even if it looks like you can't do it, you just have to ask, how do I make it happen? Start with that end goal in mind, and then deal with whatever obstacle is stopping you. And this applies to finding tactics, checkmates, anything really. It's such an effective thought process to go through because it assumes success. And when you assume success, you automatically start seeing the solutions you need. So I managed to get the knight trade, and I take with the pawn here, which looks strange. But this is another case where the double pawns aren't bad because I can easily play f3 to connect the pawns so that they're protecting each other. On the other hand, Akeem's d-pawn is looking more and more vulnerable. My entire plan here was just stack all my pieces to target that pawn because that's the only real weakness he has. He trades rooks, which gives me the open file. And now, knight e6, offering a queen trade. Whenever you're deciding whether to trade, always ask yourself, who benefits from this trade? Don't trade for the sake of it, only trade if you see a clear benefit to you. In this case, after queen takes, I see the clear benefit of doubling his pawns. And notice the difference between my double pawns and his. My pawns can protect each other like this, whereas his pawns can't. Also, pay attention to how I put these pawns on light squares to work together perfectly with my dark squared bishop. These are all subtle things that make a big difference over the course of a game. The BAD system is a great overarching strategy to have, but to execute it well, you have to understand all these little details. Now here, Akeem pushes d4, which is a nice idea. Whenever you have a weak pawn, just trade it off to get rid of it. I played bishop here to protect my queen side. That's the advantage of the bishop versus knight. In open positions like this, the long range of the bishop allows it to cover the whole board. Now, this is where Akeem makes his first major mistake. Pawn to f6. This loses to a simple tactic. I can just take the pawn, and when he takes, I win the knight. A fairly easy tactic that someone of Akeem's level should definitely have seen, but to be fair, we were both pretty low on time here. This just goes to show you that everyone blunders. Even masters. This blunder was the one turning point of this game. But never get complacent. I still have to convert the win. Now, even though I only won a pawn, it's actually so much more than that. Because look at how disjointed and weak all his pawns are. So what happens is, very quickly, my rook is able to devour even more pawns. And we end up in this position where my rook is way more active than his. His rook is stuck defending the pawn, and the pawn is also completely immobile, which means he's tied down there while I can do whatever I want on the king side. And that's the plan to win this endgame. Just push these passed pawns and promote them. But first, it's super important in the endgame to activate your king too. So I start marching my king up. He tries to bring his king over to help on the queen side, but that now leaves this pawn defenseless. So I swing my rook over to grab it. Now I'm up 2 pawns, but I still have to be careful here. He has this passed pawn, which can turn very dangerous. I can't push g6 yet because he would fork me. So first I bring my king up, he plays b5, and now I can keep pushing. But now he gives me another problem. He blocks with the rook. So we want to promote this pawn. How do we make it happen? Well, it's pretty simple. We just need extra support. So I bring my king up to help. Pushing this other pawn would also have worked. He tries pushing his pawn too, but it's just too slow. And here he just resigned because he realized my rook can stop his pawn, but his rook can't stop mine after king f7. So that's the game. I got 95% accuracy using this very simple thinking system, and I highly encourage you to try it out in your next few games. And by the way, if you want to improve faster and reach 2000 ELO, check out this video next, where I give you the 5 biggest cheat codes to chess improvement.